All right. So let's go over that. Uh, where to go? Let's go over that mock challenge. So this was one of the actual challenges. We have like eight or nine now. So we have a lot to rotate through. But it's very similar in scope and shape of the other ones. So how you did on this is probably about how you'll do on the one tomorrow. Uh, drop, yeah. While we're here, I'll go ahead and drop like a 1 to 5 in the channel. Like 3 is passing, but like 5 is like totally nailed it. 1 is completely lost. Just how do you feel like you did on this one if you had to grade yourself? And 1s and 2s are totally legit. Who are we missing? Anthony, how did you feel like you did on the challenge? There we go. No worries. Cool. Yeah, drop a number when you get a chance. Cool. Yeah. So would it be useful to walk through this one like we did the other ones, or would you like to ask questions about it, or both?
I'd
Preferences?
like to see a walkthrough just because like I'm curious to see how like everybody else could see answers.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I did a walkthrough of this right after stand up. It took about 20 minutes, give or take. Um, I just like burned through it. But we've been doing it all week, so feel good about that. Cool. So I'll do that. I think what I would like to do, I'll do a walkthrough like we've been doing. Um, if you did something differently than the way I did it, I would love to hear how you're approaching it differently, just so we can get like a spread of techniques, so you're not just seeing mine over and over again. Because I can do it, but everyone has their own preference, so more options are always better.
Yeah.
Cool. So I will. Oh, go
Can
ahead.
I, there's just a couple things I wanted to call out as we do the walk through, like, in, similar to what you just said, like there were a couple of the imports I ended up changing.
Hmm.
So not sure if that was just because I changed it because it made it match exactly kind of what the other one looked like,
Was it
or
for the restaurant one?
yeah, like yeah, it was. I think there
Yeah.
were locations where I changed the import.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other one was there is like um a template, I guess, for a class method
Yeah.
that I didn't even use.
Yeah. Then
So,
you don't need to use that one.
uh, if there
Yeah,
was
that
like
that
a way
that
to use
confused me
it.
for a little bit.
Yeah, just a fake out, I guess. Um, yeah, if it doesn't satisfy one of the requirements, then don't worry about it. And if tests don't seem to hit it, so whatever. Um, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely hit that. I think I did it without changing any imports, so I'm curious to see. But you got everything working, right?
I did, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious to see what because again, this is one way to do it. And I really don't like the sort of template stuff they put in, because that kind of forces you to do or encourages you to do it one way when there are many different ways to do it. So yeah, let me go through this and see what we have. And yeah, please stop at any point and either ask questions about how or why I'm doing something. Why is probably more important. Or if you did something a different way, I'd love to hear about it. So let me share my code screen. Loop, great. Chat is over there. Awesome. So let's take a look at that README again. Sweet. So this is the same V-shaped relationship stuff we've got. three models: restaurant customer review, restaurant has many reviews, customer has many reviews, and a review belongs to each of those. And so restaurants have many customers through reviews, customers have many restaurants through reviews. Yeah, so I think everything should be running here. Here are our deliverables. So just to kind of like do an overview of all these basic ones here. It looks like they're all set up. I think a lot of them are actually set up in code to do the basics there. So mostly what we're going to be doing are the properties here. So I'm just going to blast through those. They should be pretty familiar now. Oh, I'm probably going to do one thing on the first one we can talk about, but yeah, let's just get through it. I'm going to bring up the README in another window, so I don't have to keep flipping back and forth. There it is. Okay, cool. Whoop. A little bit smaller. There we go. All right. So let me run PyTest to make sure that nothing is working. Great. One passed. What passed? Oh yeah, that's not going to be what we want though. Cool. So we're ready to roll. Let's just go down the line. So starting with customer, we want our first name and last name. Great. So it has set up the basics for us. What we want to do is add those property methods. So I'm going to just knock those out here. We want first name. So, and that's just the return. For there, and we'll do first name setter.
And can you remind me why we're always putting that underscore in, like, yeah, in line 9 and a lot of other places?
Yeah, so that's since Python doesn't have actual private members, it doesn't have any private methods or properties. You can always get to them from the outside, which breaks encapsulation. The kind of, and it's not just in Python, but a lot of languages use this kind of idiom, this custom to, if something is only used internally in the class, we put an underscore in front of it. So setting up these properties are going to let us say, instance dot first name, instance dot last name. So those are kind of like the getters and setters for that. And then the internal representation of that is going to be using that underscore first name.
Does it like actually do anything code wise, or is it just to like alert other?
Yeah, it's just convention.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it would be cool if it did something code wise, but it does not. So here's where we want to do our validation. So we're eventually going to be doing self first name, self first name. Name. So we'll be doing that, but we need to make sure that the name is a string and that the name is between 1 and 25 characters, and we want to raise an exception if that's not the case. I know though, I'm gonna be bad and copy paste this stuff here. Oops. I'm just gonna make all these last name. Cool. So if I do the validation here, so I would want to do, I'm going to check to make sure it is a thing. Yeah. So if name has is instance name and string. So if it is the instance of that and one is less than length of the name, it's less than I guess it's less than equal to, right? Inclusive, yeah. So if that is the case, then we'll do that. Else, we're gonna raise that exception. So the last name has that exact same setup. And in fact, because they're both called names, I could basically just copy paste that. And this is not necessary, but it's something I like to do because there's probably going to be more than one thing like that. I'm just going to break that out into a separate little method. So call it like validate. So it's going to take the name and, if I'm going to do the opposite here. If not, is instance name string, and that's if you have done logic stuff, something and something is the same as, or the inverse of is not the thing or not the other thing. If you don't want to care about formal logic, it reads kind of like English, so you can kind of flip that around. And I'm only doing this so I can raise the exception only in this case, because otherwise I'd be like return true and else raise the exception. So if not, then I'm going to raise my exception. Cool. So instead of doing this stuff here, what I'd like to do is I'm just going to say self-validate name. So that's going to do the checking for us. And then I can just do the same thing here. So if this logic was to change, we would only have to change it in one place instead of both places. Yeah, does that make sense why I did that?
If I used I used first name and last name instead of name for the for both of them, would that still be working?
Yeah,
I
totally
understand
fine.
how this one works though. I understand that. Again,
Yeah, and again, these variable names are the name we're taking in to the function and assigning, like that could literally be anything. It's just called name because that's what it is. But if we called it hot dog, it would work the same way.
that got it.
Awesome. Is that going to pass us some tests? Maybe. Oh yeah, it did that. Cool. Check the reviews first. I'm going to go ahead and do all this stuff for all the classes we have here. So we got customer setup. We're going to do restaurant review. Restaurant has to be more than one character and should not be able to change the name. So cool. It only has the one, so we don't need to fuss around too much. We just do property. And this is just name. Underscore name there because that's going to be the internal representation. Self and name. I think I can still call it name in here because that is just going to be internal to that. And if I want to go self name, it will be self name. So here's where I can do my checks. So I want to make sure it is. Does it check to see if it's a string? I'm going to check to see it's a string just to make sure. So I'll just do a check here. If is instance name is a string and name is greater than or equal to 1, then we will, and we want to check to make sure it can't be reset, right? And not has error. So we're checking to make sure that's a string, checking to make sure it is has characters in it, and making sure that it has not been set before. So it can only be set once. And we'll just say self name equals name. Otherwise, we'll raise an exception. I think it said anything that fails any of the validations or anything, we're like raising exceptions all over the place. So we're going to do that by default. Cool. So this should be pretty familiar to us at this point. Review. We want customer restaurant then. Great. And I'm pretty sure that's going to want to validate those two things. Rating. Yeah, great. Cool. So I'm going to. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. So it wants the rating property, right? So we're going to do property. Yeah, rating. So this is just going to return self rating. So we typed this thing an awful lot. I probably should, but I haven't yet. There's a couple ways to, well, there are many ways to automate this, right? Two ways that I like to do that are kind of language independent is to use either snippets in VS Code that you can set up. You can configure your snippets there, and then, oops, yeah. You can configure snippets and then like give it, tell it what to write and give it the places where you can fill it in. I also use a text expander called Espanso, which lets you do stuff like that. So if there's something that you type an awful lot, you can do a hotkey for it. Also, and I think it's trickier in Python because the introspection is not as robust as something like Python or Ruby. But writing in Ruby, they're called macros and a bunch of other stuff. Basically, writing code that writes code for you. You would want to maybe figure out some way to shortcut this, because if it's going to be basically the same thing every time, there's no reason to type it out every time. But for now, we do. So I'm just going to do that. And this is going to be rating, self-rating. And the things we want are the rating should be a number, and it should be between 1 and 5. So if instance, I think it needs to be an int, right? Int, yeah. Hello. Cool. Int. If it's an integer and it's between 1 and 5, then oops. Then we will set the rating. And we can set it, yeah. Else. Exception. Cool. So I think that is all that basic work there. Cool. So, oh, and we need one more. We need our all in there. Yeah. And I think I'm going to set this up right now. Stores a list of all reviews. So we'll have all, set that to an empty list. And we're going to need to add things when we init there. So I'm going to say review all append stuff. So this is, we were creating our list that's going to, our class member that is going to contain a list of all of the things that we've created. And then as we create them in the initializer, we're going to append it to that. So this should keep track of all of our reviews. And this is the way I prefer to do it instead of yesterday when they were in the outer classes. You only need to keep track of it in one place. It's way neater. So what is up next? Object relationships. Customer has many reviews. That's all the way down here. Is it? Okay. Restaurant. Where did I lost it. Review plus great. So our customer, we want to return the customer object for that. No, in review, we want to return the customer object for the review. It must be a type customer, and we're going to raise an exception, and then the same thing for restaurant. So returns the customer object for that review. Great, great. So in our I had it right here. In our review, so we're just going to want to return the customer object, and I think that does it already. It's not doing the checking, but we'll save that, I think. I'm going to jump down here to restaurant. So here's the juice. We're going to want to add, I think it has them here. Yeah, reviews. So reviews is going to add all the reviews. I'm not gonna use that part, I don't think. Yeah, that's someone copy pasted this because that's not necessary. So in reviews, all we want to do, reviews is just going to return a list of all reviews for that restaurant. Cool. So we're going to need to look at, and it's giving us a hint here by importing review. So we're going to want to look at, well, we're going to return, if we return review all, that's going to return all of the reviews, and we only want reviews for that restaurant. So we're going to have to, in a different language, I would use filter here, but since we are not in that language, and Python does have a filter method, it's just a little bit clunkier. This is where I would want to do a list comprehension. So I want to return the reviews. So cool. So I'm going to return a list of review for you in review all, and I only want to do that if the review start to look like not a word. Review restaurant is this one here. So that should pretty much do it. I'm gonna get rid of this part because it's just gross. Oh no, I need the new review. I don't need the review. No, I'm just returning the reviews. Yeah, this is unnecessary, I think. If it's not, I'll fix it later. Cool, and we're gonna do something similar for the customers. We want to return a list of all the customers who have reviewed that restaurant. We could do a similar list comprehension here. Get all the reviews and only and return the review customer for that instead. But instead of going through the review class, we already have something that gets all the reviews for us here. So I'm going to use that. So in self reviews, so that's going to give us this list of reviews for this restaurant, and I want to get the customers, so I'm going to ask for customer or self reviews. So this will, and this is basically our map alike. We're just looking at this method that we wrote already that's going to get all reviews for our restaurant, and then just transform the review into a review customer. Since the test is not there, we're going to do the same kind of thing for a customer, only backwards. So we're going to get the get a list of all the customers and get a list of all the reviews.
For the review one, I actually used the new review one, but I ended up making a self or like a review list at the top of that one.
Making it like an all reviews here.
I did like a self dot underscore review into like an empty list.
Yeah,
I did something there. Is that one, or is the way that you have, is that one like more preferable, or?
It's more preferable for me. So and this is kind of rule 3 territory. This is so if we are keeping a list of all the reviews in this class or in this instance, we're gonna, so this works fine here. If we have a million reviews, that's going to get real clunky real fast because we're going to be probably keeping that same kind of thing in each of the classes. And that's why having everything, so this is also like a single source of truth. If we start putting alls in here, if we want to keep track of all the customers or restaurants for a reason, that might be fine. But really, if we're just using this list as kind of like the central repository of where all the things are, then that's going to be much cleaner and less prone to error.
Got it. No, that makes a lot more sense. I was just like, when I was looking at the code, it gave me that new review argument. I was like, I guess I gotta use it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no reason not to. I think it doesn't test for it not to be there. Rule one, if it works, it works. But it's just there's no good or bad. It's just what's easier or not. So this way is easier for me. Other people may differ.
Yeah, I think yours is better because it's one line of code and it just refers to that all list in the review page. So.
Yeah, less code is to a point better in that there's less surface area for bugs to live on. That can be taken to the extreme, of course, which makes your code unreadable. But yeah, making it understandable. Rule two, making it easy to understand and debug. That's the most important thing there.
Yeah, I did what John did, and then I also had to change. This is where I changed the import. So on 21, I proposed classes dot customer import capital customer, so that I then could like check if the type of the thing going into the list was of class customer.
Right.
Yeah, same realization as John. Like,
yeah, I tried to do that, Travis. Then like towards the end, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do that ugly code that Mark showed us.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about this way, so I think in my understanding, the reason we write this reviews first is so that we can use it here. This import seems to indicate to me that they want you to do this again, like do some copy paste down here and then return review customer instead. But we don't even need that there because we're not looking at the review class. We're already doing that once. There's no reason to duplicate that code. So yeah, I know the person who wrote these. And I think I think there was a lot of pressure on them to get it done quickly, and there's some residue here. So yeah,
are these going to pass the type check test?
Maybe we'll find out.
Because they each, there's a test that's like ensure customer is of type customer in review.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be in the init here. This is where we yeah, let me add these here. Won't even need that. And I think then that'll get the tests to the point where we can take a look at that. I think we are going to need to add that. And I think I'm going to add it in the review, but let's see what it says. Cool. Let me go ahead and add this one here. So we're going to do basically the same thing from review. So we're going to return review for review and review all if view customer self. Cool. And then here we can just use that. We're going to look at self reviews. And we're going to want the restaurants. So review in self reviews. Cool. And so that basically does the same thing we did back here, only for the other class. Let's see where our tests are leaving us. I think we might have to do. Hey, we did some stuff. Customer has many reviews. Customer has many restaurants. Get number of reviews. um, did well, tell me how you implemented this. Anyone?
Just did a return length of self, well, because I had made that empty list on this one as well. So I just did a return of my list.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just did a length of self reviews. That feels like a weird method to have because you can just grab the reviews and do a length of it if you want them, but that's what the requirements say. Cool. So that passed. And now we're getting into all the restaurant tests. We did that. String can't be changed. Has many reviews. Has many customers. Great. Star rating. You know what? It's not asking. Is it asking us to? Maybe not. It's not asking us to validate that. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Huh. I'm gonna go ahead and do this one and see if there's anything that is yelling at us. So this is get the average star rating, and this is going to do just that. And we can calculate the average by adding up all the ratings. Great. So fortunately, we are going to have that. So that's going to be in reviews. Let's get the total of all those. So I'm just going to say total equals, I'm going to get the sum of this list comprehension, which is going to give us the ratings in all the reviews. So review rating, self reviews. So this is going to look at the reviews for this one. And for every review, we're changing the list of reviews into a list of ratings, and then we're taking the sum of that. And I'm just going to return the sum divided by, yeah. So I'm just going to return total divided by the length of self reviews. I feel like that's going to do it. Seems simple. Does it work? No. Haha. Okay, great. Here's the exceptions. Great. Review checks the insured customer's customer. Perfect. So here I'm going to do if, and we're going to do, what are we going to do? Is instance, I guess. Is instance. They're both imported. Great. Customer. And bloop. Do all that stuff. And we'll do our else. Exception. Exception. Feel like that's going to do it for us. Hey, yeah. Cool. Yeah. So that is my walkthrough. And yeah, all the tests pass. Everything feels pretty good here. As good as it's going to feel for for what we're doing. And we satisfied all the requirements. Fantastic. So if you did something different that worked, or have questions about why I did something a certain way, or if there's anything that you don't understand, now is the time to ask, because this is basically going to be what's on the code challenge tomorrow. Or even anything that would slow you down, because the speed is also in consideration here.
I did a bunch different, just because I followed like the blueprint basically of
Right.
we did yesterday, which you showed us was not
Yeah.
like ideal, but So like similar to like what John was saying, I initialized in both customer and restaurant, like an instance list of reviews,
Mhm.
an instance list of restaurants on the customer, an instance list of customers on the restaurant, and then did the whole like, new restaurant thing instead of the list comprehension.
Right.
And then let's see, the average, the average. I first tried to use like import the mean thing and use that because I did that in coffee shop and it worked well, but I was getting tripped up because we were taking the mean of rating, which is not on the restaurant itself, it's on the review. So I did like a for loop.
Yep.
And said like, inside of this instance reviews list, go through each review in there and just add that rating to the total, and then did kind of similar to what you did, total divided by 1.
And that's basically what these list comprehensions are doing under the hood.
Yeah.
Flipping through this is just a different syntax for it.
And then I also had to do like, I think because I went that route of like creating all the instance lists,
Mhm.
had to, and I use the wrong vocabulary here, but like initialize in each review.
Mhm.
Yeah, when each review initialized, it would like add that review to the restaurant list of reviews, the customer list of reviews, and then it would take the customer of the initialized review and add it to the restaurant's customer list and vice versa for the customer. So it ended up being like a lot more lines across each 3 of the files.
Yeah.
As I was watching you do that, I was like, whoa, like it just hit 17 like really quickly. When mine was a little more like 1 at a time.
Yeah. And again, like that's not necessarily bad. It's kind of belt and suspenders. Like you're keeping the same, you're basically keeping the same data in 2 different places, which is not terrible all the time. There are definitely reasons you might want to do that. In this case, if it works, it works. But if you are, and like this is a I think this is a really common thing for junior developers to do. Definitely something I did a lot, until I just burned myself so many times. But like keeping extra copies of the data when you have different classes or different things, it feels good to have like, oh, like I have a backup or a cache or something. Um, but then forget to update one when you update the other, or something changes one that's not related to the way you added them or something. And
Does it also then become like a like a bandwidth, like we're just using extra server space that we don't need to?
yeah, you'd be using extra memory if you're keeping like duplicate lists, especially like there's 3 numbers in computer science, right? 0, 1, and a million, basically, or a very large number, 1, 0, or many. So we've got our sort of simple case here, and the tests are adding a couple things. And once you get it working, and once you've got it to a place where it's understandable and easy to debug, that's when you want to start thinking about like, oh, and if I have a million reviews, that means I'm keeping a million records in like 3 different places, but I don't really need to. And it is probably faster. So if we are writing in this setting, and we're like, we are more interested in optimizing for speed rather than memory size, keeping a local copy of something, or like keeping a copy of stuff in a set or something, or a map, that's the right way to do it. Then if you run your profiling and see that is faster, then yeah, like trading space for time is a thing that we do a lot, or vice versa. So yeah, again, not wrong, but depending on what you're trying to do, easier or harder to do one way or the other.
Yeah, no, I like, I mean, I like the faster way with list comprehension.
Mhm.
Also, like, I've been watching Wimbledon, so to use a tennis analogy for tomorrow, it's like, well, all right, you're in the finals, dude. Like, maybe now's not the time to try a brand new serve
Right.
if you know your other serve's going to go in.
Yeah, and so for restaurant and customer, we're not using them here, but if this was like a general purpose ORM type class, we would definitely probably want to keep uh, a list of all things, and then when we in it, then we a restaurant all itself, and same for customer, because while initially like, oh, I can just do a search for all the restaurants and or customers that are in have reviews, but we might have a restaurant without reviews or a customer without reviews, and so they wouldn't show up in those tables. So in that case, keeping that all list in each class for just itself is pretty standard, I think. And to kind of skip forward a little bit, we're after next week, we're probably not going to be doing this that much. But what we will be doing is doing the same kind of object, only instead of keeping an all list and keeping these things here, they're going to be stored in a database. So there will be a restaurant table with all the restaurants, and so when we say restaurant, class restaurant dot all, that is going to, since we have a library that does a lot of stuff for us, instead of looking at an all list in the class itself, when we say restaurant dot all, it's going to say, oh, select all the things from the restaurant table and give back a list of that. So it is stored somewhere, just not in the class itself, or not directly in the class itself. But yeah, but if we don't need it, we don't need it. If the requirement asks for it, then we do it. But if we don't, then don't write any code that you don't need to, because it takes more time and brain, and it's more places for bugs to live. Cool. What else do we have? Let's see. Sorry, total stars, average stars. Yeah, that's good. And return some. All right. Yeah, totally good. Yeah, those are, if they work, they work. I would, probably after I got this working, I was like, okay, cool, this works. I would probably just return that, which still reads fine. It's just, this is where the method name does the heavy lifting, because I can look at this line of code and take 30 seconds to kind of read through it and parse out what it's doing, and still pretty understandable. Or I can just look at here and say, oh, it's returning the average, so it's going to be returning the sum divided by the length. Great, yeah. Yeah, so there's a difference. It's there's like 3 different stages of it where you're like, you need it to be a little bit simpler, or like broken apart, like it looks like John's was, into more lines. It's like, okay, I can understand each step more easily. Then when you've got it working, you're like, okay, I can kind of refactor this so it's a little bit tighter. And then when you or someone else is going back and looking at the code to understand it or debug it, that's when they might be like, I think I'm going to break this out back into sum and length again, so it's easier to see at a glance, even though it doesn't change the functionality at all. But yeah, it's all, a lot of that is up to personal style, and or your team's requirements. So. Cool. What else do we have? Anything else in here that is not like super clear that you feel like you'd have trouble out with, or that would slow you down on the challenge tomorrow? All right. Cool then. Let's stop that share. Awesome. Looks like folks have a pretty good handle on a lot of the stuff. If you don't, then at least you will know what parts you need to work on. Yeah, again, the challenge tomorrow is going to be very, very, very similar to this, since this was one of the challenges. So yeah. Oh, sweet, that's a different channel. Cool, last call for questions. Alrighty. I will post this video in the channel and on the playlist. And otherwise, if you have any other questions, give me a holler and I'll see you shortly. Thanks for hanging out.